In my kingdom, you have to run as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. In my kingdom, you have to run as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. No one standing still can triumph, no matter how well constituted. Big time stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see that in life anywhere from inflation to just like if you stop growing as a person and you look around here a few years later, there's going to be a few people that left you way behind, and like you're not getting that time back. I'm willing to bet if I say it once, which there's number one, I'm going to say that 1,000 times over the life of this podcast. You'd never get that time back. Anytime, and I'm guilty of this still, unfortunately, anytime that you wake up and you get on your phone as soon as you wake up and you just start scrolling, that is time you're not getting back. When you wake up, the first thing you need to do is the hardest thing you do that day. Maybe you have to go to the bathroom and have a cup of coffee before you do the hardest thing of the day. But regardless, prioritize whatever that may be. For me, it's going to the gym. For me, ironically enough, it's reading, so like those things that I need to do the most for myself, for my mental health, for my physical health, are also the hardest things for me to do as a person. And I know I'm not alone, but the only way I'm going to get it done is to go ahead and get it knocked out first thing.
Just one of the times that I planed it off. I tried to slow it down, and it would not slow down. And I had the decision to either turn really sharply, wide open, or hit the bank. And I was like, well, I'll turn. And I went to go turn. And like, I didn't have the kill switch on me or anything. And I really wasn't going that fast. Like it just planes off, and then I would kind of start killing the motor back. And I planed it off this time, and I started trying to kill the motor back, but there's no brakes on a boat, right? So you're just going. And I'm like, well, I hit the bank, or I try to turn, and I tried to turn. Tried to make it sharp, and whenever I did, I just slid in the boat because like it's it's an aluminum seat, and I just slid in the boat, and then the boat did like this, and I went like that. I hit the water, and I immediately popped my head up and said, I got to get out of the water or this boat's going to spin around and hit me. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing. But luckily the engine turned off.
How?
And I have no idea.
You hit the freaking kill switch.
No.
You had to.
No, because the kill switch there wasn't even like a cord on it. Like it was just like the thing was just pushed into it. But no, it just turned off. Somehow it just turned off. Thank God. And
I mean, what a miracle!
I'm thinking, I like the only thing I can actually fathom is like the throttle got stuck wide open, because that's the thing. It just didn't slow down, and I'm thinking that after that jolt or something, it might have like knocked it loose or whatever. But yeah, anyway, I don't trust that motor whatsoever, and that's I think I've been flounder gigging with that motor 2 more times, and now it's just sitting there, and it can sit there. Because now I have then we bought the big boat, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Holy crap, man. Like, you got so lucky on that one.
Yeah. Super lucky.
That's insane. Yeah, that's, I mean, all right. So That's a big lesson learned. Like, and that's one that I was running a risk on that Nissan that I was just talking about. Is like my kill switch didn't work. Like, you, we shouldn't get on a boat. We shouldn't take a boat out without having that kill switch on, man. Because
And
like
use it. Like that's the thing.
that solo, and that solo only has a 5 horsepower on the back. But I was in a tidal creek, and I tried to take this bend as fast as I could. Just kind of learning the boat, and that sucker kicked me. Uh, it I don't even exactly know what happened. But basically, the back end broke loose, right, and it slung me real hard, and I just grabbed on. Which on a solo skiff, there's not a whole lot to grab on to. But fortunately, I stayed in the boat because that kill switch does not work. So I've still ran the risk, but I've also like not done anything stupid. And the bottom line is like I will not use that Nissan ever again. Now that I have a motor that actually has a working kill switch and my little 2.5s, those kill switch work. I always use those lanyards. You know, yeah, don't ever not hook up again, man. I just realized I'm still in my FR gear. Like oh, here comes a moment. Oh yeah. Yeah, just took them bad boys off. Well, one of them. Here comes the other one. Oh, that's a good moment. It's 9:42, and the work boots are just now coming off.
Just now. Yeah. I mean,
That's a good day. All right, so let's get into why we're here, man. Do you have the book? Yes, you do. So
always.
this is the first episode of the podcast. This is our first book. Um, I we're no strangers to this Arthur by any means. I think we've both been following him for years. And I've actually had this book for a very long time, but I opened it up, man, and like I quickly realized like I'm not quite intelligent enough for this book. This is not going to be a quick read, you know. And so, I knew I needed to get through it, right? And I just never did. I literally carried it around with me for, a solid year or more. I can't even remember when I bought it. I bought it relatively new. Like it had came out not too long before. And so, anyways, like he gets chewed on by dogs, blah blah blah. Like it's just been tossed in my truck for forever. And then, yeah, that's it. 12 rules for life. Um, yeah, and then over the holidays this past year, I'm sitting on the back deck, and my wife walks out. She had went to take some food to her grandfather, or so I thought. Um, And so she walks back in and she's clearly been crying. So I'm like, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to let that one marinate for a little while and we'll revisit that in a minute. She said nothing. So we'll leave it at that. We'll talk about it later. I'm on the back deck, man. I'm just hanging out like it's, like I said, in the holidays. So it's between Christmas and New Year. And she walks out. I'm sitting on the steps. She walks out and she's like making small talk, like really doesn't matter. Like clearly, like she's clearly making small talk. Like none of the words she said had to do with anything of any substance. And all of a sudden she pauses. She goes, "Hey, catch." And she 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 throws this Ziploc bag full of pee tests. And so, like, mind you, we are coming out of a pandemic, right? And so, uh, I see positive on the test. So, like, positive. And the second test, positive. Third test, what? And what is COVID? No, why would this isn't like a COVID. Oh my God, it's a pregnancy test. Bro, like, just that moment, like, everything had to change. I didn't have a choice anymore. right? And so
Right.
one of the things I decided to do was like pick this book back up, and I started reading it. And as I'm reading it, like I'm just in chapter 1, and I'm just like, oh wow, man, I want everybody that I care about to have this book, and like it's like, well, do you really mean that? It's like, well, yeah, the people I care about, absolutely. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask uh, uh, Zach if he wants to read this book with me. And I was pretty shy about it because Jordan Peterson can be controversial. I
Right.
I
Yeah.
I appreciate who the man is and like will support him. And so I have been proven to by any instance that I shouldn't. And I don't think that's going to happen because he's a very intelligent man. But still, he's not like a guy that I'm just walking up to people in the middle of the street going, "Hey, have you heard of Jordan Peterson?" you know, not that I'm that kind of guy, anyways. But you know what I'm saying. Um, anyways, yeah. So ask Zach if he, wanted to go through this book with me, and he agreed. And like we started getting into it, and it's like, oh wow, this is a lot of fun. You know, I like this because like I can actually talk to somebody about the things that I'm learning and like get some feedback on like the other things I may have missed or like some reinforcement that furthers an understanding on a topic. And it's like, why would we stop on this one book? Like we're both uh similarly minded in the sense that we both want to keep learning. I think we both understand that you never stop. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. You know, I don't know, man. I'm glad that you're here. I'm really excited about going through this book with you. And bro, I'm just so excited about all the different things that we could possibly learn about here, man.
I'm excited. I'm just tired, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get into it, man?
Yeah. 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 I think it's funny too how like this kind of started as like a we'll get together like once a week, and then like 2 weeks went by and we hadn't heard from each other, and I was like, hey, I really like this book. At first, it was right when I got it, I sent you a picture of it, and I was like, oh, it's Jordan Peterson, and just text with like all capital letters, and you thought it was like the controversial side, like, and you text me back, you're like, man, just give him a try, and I'm like, no, I love the guy, because you just told me the title of the book, you didn't tell me who it was, and
Yeah.
so yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
and for anyone watching this video, thanks. Um, I mean, this was kind of a spur of the moment. Let's make a YouTube channel out of it. Let's document it.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we don't want to forget you guys. Um, if you want to join us on this, it's probably going to get a view. It's probably going to be my wife and your wife, 2 views.
Yeah. I don't even know if I want to tell my wife about this.
Oh
Like,
my god.
she can come back and watch the beginning, like, well after this, like, takes off. If it takes off. Like, that's the only way my wife ever sees this video.
So like in 5 years, you'll be like, by the way, watch this.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I hate that
All
word,
right.
by the way. Exactly.
Um,
Does that
chapter
word
one,
get you?
rule one.
Ooh, I lag so bad right then. There is something going on with the
You're
hotel
still
internet.
lagging. There you go. Now you're
Yep.
talking.
Now we're back.
Yeah, now we're good. Yeah, we're back.
What is
Um,
I I've got notes here, but I didn't write down the title of the chapter. What's the title of the chapter?
stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Well, that's pretty straightforward.
Well, so like
What an annoying
I
thing
read
to
the
hear,
title
by
of the
the way.
chapter. What?
Definitely lagging again. I said, what an annoying thing to hear, by the way. Like, I would just get so frustrated with hearing that. Like, what do you mean stand up straight? I'm standing up straight. No, stand up straighter. Like, oh, but that's uncomfortable, man. Like, what? Leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's always like being told what to do. Like, don't tell
Yeah.
me how to live my life. So, like,
No.
yeah, that like that's my posture. Kind of, you'll see me go to this and like slouch more and all that good stuff. But yeah, just the title of the chapter. I was thinking of like the Superman pose. Do you know about the Superman pose? Like the superhero stance with like your legs spread, not like wide, but like a power pose or whatever. Like
Okay.
they say that if you do like the stance like in the morning, it increases your your feel good chemicals, your
So
serotonin.
how long am I supposed to do that?
It's said I don't know the exact thing, but it's something like 5 to 10 minutes or something like that, just every morning.
Okay.
Um, I
I
don't
can do
know.
that. Can I do other things?
Yeah, just imagine yourself brushing your teeth and you're Superman and your cape is flowing in the wind and you have a massive chest, you know, and huge biceps, and you're
I've
just
got it. Oh, okay. That's appropriate.
yeah,
Okay.
man, brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god. I was just thinking though, like a good place to do that would be the shower. I could totally stand like this for 5 minutes straight in the shower.
yeah, yeah. It's hard for me
So
to
maybe,
just stay in the shower, but yeah, while I'm washing my hair, wash
oh
my
my
hair for
god.
5 minutes or
For
ten
a split
minutes.
second, I was just imagining you with long hair still. Like that. This is a good look. This is a good look. The long hair was a era. You
It was.
know?
We both had it.
Yeah. Yeah. You rocked it way better and way longer than I did though. Like luxurious hair.
Yeah, well, I rocked it and the man bun for a long time. Yeah, I cut it right before I became a nurse. Yeah. So
Do you have any so I've got some notes on this. The first note I took was from page 5. Do you have any notes from pages 0 through 4?
so I didn't exactly do notes. I just did underlines.
Gotcha.
Wait, we did
Okay.
do notes. I'm just not gonna pull it up because we
Sure.
typed them in the Google Doc. Um, I mean, he kind of talks about the lobsters and then the
Yeah,
birds.
yeah, let's get into that. So in the very beginning of the chapter, like uh straight out of the gate, we're talking about lobsters, man. Like, what are you talking about? Peterson, what are you talking about? We're talking about lobsters right now. Like I bought this book and the first thing that we're going to talk about is lobsters.
I,
Okay. But
I
it's
don't want to.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to seem like a know-it-all, but I understood the metaphor he was attempting to set up, and so like that's what kind of kept me reading was where is he going to go with this?
Sure.
How is he going to fit a lobster's? You know, it's not really a lobster story, but it's like how their hierarchy or their social status.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
well, well, it starts with like how primitive their brains are. Like they're just complex enough to where like they do things that we recognize as things to do, right? Like they clean up around their den, like they like you said, they have this hierarchy. And that's established, by exploring. They've got their home base. They'll create their den, if you will, and then they've got this area that they're this territory that they kind of roam looking for food or whatever. Um, and that's where my notes come in, right? Like this very primitive being, um, is exploring its territory. And on page 5, I'm going to do a little bit of a direct quote here. I'm just going to piece this stuff together. I pulled out some parts from that section, like pages 5 through 7, and I'm just going to stitch them together real quick. On page 5, he says, this means lobsters often encounter one another when out exploring. Sometimes one lobster can tell immediately from the display of the claw size that is much smaller than its opponent and will back down without a fight. So that what I left out there is like these lobsters, when they're out there exploring, they'll encounter other lobsters, right? And the hierarchy that you're getting at, man, it's a lot simpler to establish in the lobster world, because you know it's very very basic things they need in their life, and they need food, and they need the best territory to capture that food, right? And so obviously this one lobster thinks it's his territory, comes upon another lobster. What are you doing here, bro? Get out of here. Well, I don't want to leave, and I don't think I'm gonna. You know, that's basically the conversations that are had when two lobsters meet. But he continues. If a dominant lobster is badly defeated, he goes through 4 stages, right? Four levels of escalation that ultimately ends in a pretty brutal fight. And at the end of that fight, pages 6 or 7, if a dominant lobster is badly defeated, its brain basically dissolves. Then it grows a new subordinate brain, one that's more appropriate for its new lowly position. Its original brain just isn't sophisticated enough to manage the transformation from king to bottom dog without virtual complete dissolution and regrowth. Big, big time concept there. And I don't think a lot of people get it, man. Like when you are beat down like that, your brain restructures itself to dwell in that bottom dwelling place in the hierarchy of life. Like I have tried to talk to people about this. Like you've got to change your mindset. And it sounds like bullshit, you know, to somebody that isn't introspective enough. But it's a thing. And what Peterson's doing here, to what you were getting at a minute ago, is like we want to act like we're not animals. You know, we want to act like we didn't go through this evolution that all these different species have gone through. We want to act like we didn't come from the same origin. You know, and the thing is, like when you simplify things, like how simple it is to watch a lobster, you know, and how they interact with their environment, like you can start to understand like we're not that different.
Right. And he talks about, you know, how lobsters have lived this way for millions of years. For as long as lobsters have been around, this is how they live. And so, I mean, they're still alive today. So, like, speaks volumes, right? Because, in order for something to work, you know, the thing that it's revolves around has to live as a species, right? And so going right back to where you are, I mean, the same thing has to go for us. Anything that we put ourselves into, it has to work. Your um your and it gets into it in the book, but like the social norms and stuff like that, like things like that has to work. And that's kind of one of the things is when you get defeated, right? And like what you were saying, you know, you have to pick yourself back up out of that. You have to reevaluate your choices. Otherwise, you're not going to live, you know, because what's a life just walking around being defeated all the time?
Yeah, well, that's also like let's take the flip side of that, right? Like if you don't pick yourself back up, man, like you're gonna be the lobster that runs away. That's still kind of an awkward thing to compare yourself to, but that's what Peterson's talking about. in the exploration part of that conversation is like, hey, these lobsters know, man, they know who to mess with and who to not mess with. And what you will find out reading this chapter is like it really is, it really can be that basic as far as how you influence the things around you. Like if you are a big, strong looking lobster, other lobsters aren't going to mess with you. And then you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to go after the better territory. You're going to get the better food, which leads to the better mates. But we're going to get into that in this chapter. Like that's the basic rundown though, right? Like if you want to make a 10-second podcast, that's it.
Right. Yeah. And then on page 7, like kind of continuing that same thought process he has like a sub chapters in his chapters, but the neurochemistry of defeat or victory. That's second paragraph under there. And I'm gonna read an excerpt, and then I'm gonna skip some stuff and read another one. But relating like serotonin in lobsters and serotonin in humans. Like if you think that there is no correlation, this is for you. When a lobster that has just lost a battle is exposed to serotonin, it will stretch itself out, advance even on former victors, and fight longer and harder. The drugs prescribed to depressed human beings, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, have much the same chemical and behavioral effect.
Tell me those chemicals again, because that again ties back to the chapter, right? Like,
right.
You notice in what you just read, like the lobster's given what serotonin, and it stretches out, right? Like it elongates, like if we were to stand up straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one?
It advanced on former victors and fight longer and harder. And then the drugs that are prescribed to depressed human beings are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, for short.
Gotcha.
But they have much of the same chemical and behavioral effect.
Gotcha.
And he makes a joke that Prozac can even cheer up lobsters.
Oh man.
What I kind of thought, yeah. the next paragraph, he kind of goes into the opposite chemical for lobsters, which is octopamine, is what I'm gonna say.
Gotcha.
I really want to say octopamine because we're talking about, but I'm pretty sure it's octopamine. But he's talking about lobsters that have been defeated, that have higher levels of octopamine than serotonin. Produces a defeated-looking, scrunched-up, inhibited, drooping, skulking sort of lobster, very likely to hang around street corners and to vanish at the first hint of trouble. But like you said this earlier, to someone with low serotonin trying to like go forward in life, and going back to what he was saying, Jordan Peterson's words, serotonin and octopamine also regulate the tail flick reflex, which serves to propel lobster rapidly backwards when it needs to escape. Less provocation is necessary to trigger that reflex in a defeated lobster. You see an echo of that in the heightened, startled reflex characteristic of a soldier or battled child with post-traumatic stress disorder. And just regulating it more, in our lives. So you're, going back to the lobster hierarchy. You kind of hinted on it. There's steps that they take before they decide, yeah, we're gonna actually fight. Where one of us is probably gonna lose their life, or at least lose enough of ourselves to where we're gonna
somebody's getting messed up.
Yeah. And part of that, let's kind of show and display is size, and they also like shoot liquid out of their something in their face.
Oh, that's right. They shoot the
That's for
jets with
chemical
like
receptors.
right,
Yeah, with the
right.
chemicals. Um, we do the same thing when you're walking by someone. We're not shooting chemicals at each other, but you can see
Right.
their eyeball. You know, um, someone who's probably not in the best position in life.
Yeah.
Someone you probably want to stay away from. That's not make good decision choices
Ah.
and stuff like that, and you don't want people to perceive you that way. So just
I shamefully will avoid people that I used to look like. First thing I think is like, bro, I know exactly where you are right now. I don't want any part of it.
right,
Like,
yeah,
you go that way, I'm going this way. Sorry. I do wish you the best of luck. You'll be all right.
yeah,
Stay over there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stay over there. And now
Yeah, man.
I'm like that with everybody now. I don't care
Sure.
who you are, what you look like. I don't want to talk to any of you.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? I saw some video. I think it was like a Mr. Beast video or something. And dude was making fun of like the ultra masculine uh
The
mindset of
Chad.
just wanting to. It was in the same mindset of the Chad. It was same conversation. Like Chad was mentioned very close in the timeline. But this was the guy that just wants to get away from society, the ultra masculine guy that just wants to abandon society. And I was like, oh, bro, shots fired. That's me. They're making fun of me right now. All right, let's get back to the lobster hierarchy. That's the last thing I remember you saying that had any form of substance pertaining to the book before I started talking some bullcrap. But I do have a note from page 8 that kind of falls back into the hierarchy thing. And you know me, I'd like direct quotes, right? Like I want to talk about what Peterson actually had to say. So I think on page 8, it's a winner take all. It's winner take all in the lobster world. Just as in human societies where the top 1% have just as much loot as the bottom 50%, and where the richest 85 people have just as much as the bottom 3.5 billion. Now, we've heard that, right? Like, we've heard that so many times. And it sounds bad, but just hear how what Peterson has to say about it. And I'll go ahead and say ahead of this next part that this is what gets me fired up. You know, like it's this type of stuff makes me want to go after bigger things in life. He says that same, and sounds bad, right? But that same brutal principle of unequal distribution applies outside the financial domain. Indeed, anywhere that creative production is required, the majority of scientific I skip I think I'm stitching together here
No, no,
but
no.
the okay,
You're rather right.
so the majority of scientific papers are published by a very small group of scientists. A tiny portion of musicians produce almost all the recorded commercial music. music just a handful of authors sell all the books. 1.5 million separately titled books sell each year in the U.S. However, only 500 of these sell more than 100,000 copies. And then it goes on, and it appears to be true in every society studied, regardless of governmental form. Like, all right, well, there you go. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what system we have set up. There are a few lobsters that create the most, and those are the ones that do the best. You know, it's not to say there aren't outliers, but get fired up about that. You know, is the way I see it. Like, what can I mean? If you are motivated to find some kind of ultra success, you can figure it out. Doesn't mean you can just like stab at something and that one thing's going to work. You got to have an open mind and enough self-awareness to know when to quit when something's a bad idea. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just naive, but I still believe the American dream can be a thing, and I think if we stopped thinking this defeatist type mentality, then maybe more of us would become more successful.
Yeah, and I think I mean all of it is it just hit me. I didn't think about this when I was reading that, but it just hit me. I'm really curious in the next 100 years when, because like the internet is still it's the internet is still very young. So I'm just curious in the next 100 years if this is still going to be true. Um, there's a lot of bands that I listen to. I remember first time listening to them was MySpace. And are they ever going to be played on the radio? No. But one of the bands I've listened to has produced 4 very successful albums. And like 100% started listening to them on MySpace. Um, and so like that's one of the things I'm kind of curious about, because you think about our generation and the generations coming up. Um, most of them don't really get their, I would think, I don't feel like they get a lot of their entertainment from radio and network television. I feel like a lot of it nowadays is, of course, you have like your the Marvel and DC, like stuff like that. That's always going to be really really big. Um, but I don't know. I try to talk to some of the patients that I've had that's about my age, because I've like been trying to get in more like rap and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
they mention names I've never heard of.
Yeah, the
And
rap
then,
game is out there right now. I haven't heard anybody that's popular right now.
I mean, just um, Tyler the
Which,
Creator's last album went number 1, and DJ Khaled had released an album at the like right around the same time, and just to think that like 100% the bottom dog went number 1 against the king, so to speak.
sure.
Yeah, it's very possible. Don't let no one is above the statistics, but don't let the statistics hold you back from doing what you want to do and love.
Right. Which, Tyler, the creator's been up there for a while. It's like you reach a certain point where like you actually get into the club, but then you got to hang out in the club for a while before you get your chance to really make it. And
Yeah.
he's finally got that chance. Good for him, man. He's a weird dude. He's like the kind of guy that I think would have been in our friend group growing up, and he would have made me feel awkward as hell. you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I think we would have got along just fine. But he's just that kind of friend that is going to give you a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Mm. Man, I don't know about you, but I skipped way along in my notes. I don't have another note, which I get it. Your line in your book. I took notes, and my next note isn't until page 13. Oh, wait, I skipped ahead actually. I like this quote though, because it kind of ties back into what we were just talking about with the whole undistrib or the distribution of wealth thing. Um, and why I get fired up about it, because it's like you need to find some motivation somewhere. Uh, Listen to this quote. This is from Alice in Wonderland. This is a good one. In my kingdom, you have to run as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. I'm back. I'm willing to bet if I say it once, which there's number one, I'm going to say that 1,000 times over the life of this podcast. You'd never get that time back. Anytime, and I'm guilty of this still, unfortunately, anytime that you wake up and you get on your phone as soon as you wake up and you just start scrolling, that is time you're not getting back. When you wake up, the first thing you need to do is the hardest thing you do that day. Maybe you have
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom and have a cup of coffee before you do the hardest thing of the day. But regardless, prioritize whatever that may be. For me, it's going to the gym. For me, ironically enough, it's reading, so like those things that I need to do the most for myself, for my mental health, for my physical health, are also the hardest things for me to do as a person. And I know I'm not alone, but the only way I'm going to get it done is to go ahead and get it knocked out first thing, even if it's
Right.
just 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's you know, when you wake up, it's you just restarted your computer, your brain, right, and your body. So like that is like the best time to tackle like the hardest thing of the day. Not necessarily saying like work wise, because that's a scheduled time where you just go and live through the bad things over and over and over. But like just in general, like yeah, the one thing that you're trying to work on and improve yourself on, I'd say, yeah, 100% right. I feel you on that. Get it done right at the beginning.
We've been at this for a while, bud. We're coming up on the hour mark. This is
Have we actually been recording for an hour though? I don't know.
I don't know. Let me see. I usually have a counter. I don't have a counter this time. Either
Like
way,
we're at 57, but I
okay, so
don't think we've been
that's
talking about the book for 57.
okay. Yeah. Either way, like what I'm feeling is like we're only a few pages in. There's a lot of information to cover in this chapter.
Yeah. So the the big part that we'll kind of move forward and just pick a topic and start talking about. But the one of the things I remember, like star 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 underline 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 reading on page 12.
Okay.
I'm trying to start where I actually want to start reading from. Jordan Peterson says, nature chooses from among them across time. That theory, as stated, appears to account for the continual alteration of life forms over the eons. But there's an additional question lurking under the surface. What exactly is the nature in natural selection? What exactly is the environment to which animals adapt? We make many assumptions about nature, about the environment, and these have consequences. Mark Twain once said, it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so.
Oh my God. I love that quote. He's got so many good quotes that he digs up, man.
Yeah, but it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so. I like just having an open mind gets you out of so much.
Yeah.
And you kind of see this with Jordan Peterson whenever he's talking in interviews and stuff. He'll be talking about a topic, and then um, someone else will say their opinion, whether it's um a good opinion and an educated opinion or not. And you just see Jordan Peterson just sitting there, and he just takes a second formulating what he has to say next, and then he says, "Well, it's interesting that you should say that." He doesn't give a negative connotation or a positive connotation. It just is what it is, and then he goes on, and like no matter what he said, no matter what anyone says to him, you can tell he kind of lives that life that you know you have to look at everything from the other person's point of view as well, not just your own.
Sure. Yeah. I try to, man. And that's one of like, all right, for instance, like I build projects, right? Like I build multi-$100 million projects. Uh and people look to me to make sure that that project is built correctly. It is terrifying sometimes to have to make this declaration knowing that I know the right answer. But just having that little bit of doubt in the back of my head. What if you're not right? What if you're wrong? That drives me crazy. And so like I appreciate Peterson putting that Twain quote in there, because like hopefully it does make some people at least keep an open mind and think things through, because I think it's a major problem that we have now in society, in which like we're so absolutely confident that we're right that we won't even give the other person the chance. We won't even listen to the other side of the conversation.
Right. And I feel like, those people that are like so gun ho and like solid in um their declarations. I feel like those are the same ones that at one point in their life didn't have someone listen to them,
Ooh, okay.
and now they don't understand how important it is just to listen to someone else. So no, it's just you're wrong and I'm right, kind of thing. Um, and then the next part, he starts getting into the yin and yang symbol and chaos and order.
Ooh, that's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do want to like let me catch up to that, because that's got to be several pages in, right?
Um, 12 is where he first starts talking about it, and then 13 is the Alice in Wonderland quote.
Huh.
Um,
Page 13 for you, huh? Because like, okay, so the page numbers are off then between our books. Because Alice in Wonderland, I think, was like, oh, yeah, it was page 13. My bad. That's where I jumped ahead. I'm being a dummy, a big old dummy. Let me still though, like, let's finish up the lobster thing, right? Because it's iconic, right? Like that is the icon for this book, is the lobster. Like the lobster itself went viral, and so I just want to run through a couple more direct quotes, and then we'll get into the yin yang about lobsters. Page 11, the dominant male with his upright and confident posture, standing up straight, uh, not only gets the prime real estate and the easiest access to the best hunting grounds, he also gets all the girls. Then let's jump forward a little bit. Uh, this means that dominance hierarchies, this is what I was talking about a minute ago. This means dominance hierarchies have been uh, an essentially permanent fixture of the environment to which all complex life has adapted. A third of a billion years ago, brains and nervous systems were comparatively simple. Nonetheless, they already had the structure and the neurochemistry necessary to process information about status and society. The importance of this fact can hardly be overstated. Um, yeah, so that's why understanding or reading and understanding this chapter is important. That's why something so dumb sounding as you need to stand up straight is important. Like whether you perceive it or not consciously, your subconscious has a lot going on in the background. And that is what something as simple as standing up straight can influence. Um, Page 14, and I think maybe we can put the lobster to bed after that, at least for the time being. Oh, this is a long one. Guaranteed I butcher this one. Uh, the part of our brain that keeps track of our position in the dominance hierarchy is therefore exceptionally ancient and fundamental. It is a master control system, modulating our perceptions, values, emotions, thoughts, and actions. Uh, it powerfully affects every aspect of our being, consciousness and unconscious, conscious and unconscious alike. Told you I was going to butcher this. Uh, this is why when we are defeated, we act very much like lobsters who have lost a fight. Our posture droops. We face the ground. We feel threatened, hurt, anxious, and weak. Uh, if things do not improve, we become chronically depressed. Consider serotonin, the chemical that governs posture and escape in the lobster. You've already covered this. Um, Low ranking lobsters produce comparatively low levels of serotonin. This is also true of low ranking human beings. The lower serotonin means decreased confidence. Low serotonin means more response to stress and costlier physical preparedness for emergency. Higher spots in the dominance hierarchy and higher serotonin levels, typically of those who inhabit them, are characterized by less illness, misery, and death, even when such factors are absolute income are held constant. Uh, yeah, still butchering this thing. This is the last part. The importance of this can hardly be overstated. That's it, man. Like, it's almost like a positive feedback loop, you know?
Right. I mean, you just don't want to be on the bottom. But I mean, like what you were saying, the positive feedback back loops. Once you take a hit, and you take another hit,
Yep.
and you take another hit, and that's one of the things. You know, how do you bounce back from a loss? Um, and then like knowing yourself, knowing your limits, knowing how what's the best thing for you to recover from a hit, so you don't end up at the bottom, because you don't want to be at the bottom.
Well, being able to recover from those hits, because as you were about to get into with the chaos and order, we're going to have some issues along the way, and so being prepared to take those hits, uh, starts with, for instance, page 17. Um, Here's a quick direct quote. Imagine that. Erratic habits of sleeping and eating can interfere with this function. Meaning, like, bro, if if you're gonna be prepared to take these hits and continue to find your way up that hierarchy, like, it starts with how you're sleeping and how you're eating, man. Like, are you eating a healthy breakfast? And no, that doesn't mean a high carb breakfast. He gets into that in this book. Like, there's so many people that just crush some cereal or something like that for breakfast, a freaking donut or something like that. Juice, copious amounts of juice. Like, basically, you're setting yourself up for a crash. You need to be loading up on fats and protein, period.
Right.
Are you waking up at the same time every day? Like he says in this book, I'm not going to direct quote it, but he basically says he's like, some of his clinical patients improved drastically just by waking up the same time every day, like clinically depressed people or something like that. Like, well, you're kidding me, right? You mean if I just wake up the same time every day, I might not feel so depressed? Yeah. Yeah, bro. Try it. See how it works out for you. Change your diet. See how it works out for you. Start exercising. See how you feel. Tell me you feel worse about yourself after you've been working out for a week, after you've been waking up at the same time every day with a reasonable amount of sleep, and you've been eating well. Tell me you feel worse about yourself. Tell me you feel worse in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 6 hours sleeping at night, but like that's only for like 4 days or so, and then it's like I'm gonna crash, and I gotta get my 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you can just sit down and eat a whole bag of Haribo gummy bears, and you're gonna feel like crap when you're sitting on the toilet later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, because it's not just it's the sugar drop. So yeah, you gotta take care of yourself.
Right. You were going to get into the chaos and order part?
Yes. So I'm looking because I know. All right, there's the counsel my clients to eat a fat and protein heavy breakfast. That's 18. I felt like there was later in this chapter that he got really. There's the positive feedback loop. That's 21. We'll just go back to where he started with that. Just read baby kissing. That made me feel weird.
I've got a note for you here. I'm gonna pick us back.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump forward a little bit. To page 23, 24. We're gonna get out of just
There
the
we go.
lobster world, and we're gonna start talking about, yeah, all right. Well, what about our hierarchy? You know, how are we gonna start climbing there? You know, I don't care really what the lobsters are doing. Thanks for that, but what about me? You know. So let me read this one from pages 23 and 24, and then let's unpack this a little bit. When Scaly, oh boy, you can tell this is gonna be a good one. When skillfully integrated, the ability to respond with aggression and violence decreases, rather than increases, with the probability of actual aggression becoming necessary. Did I even read that right? I am so tired. If you say no early on in the cycle of oppression and you mean what you say, which means you state your refusal in no uncertain terms and stand behind it, then the scope for oppression on the part of the oppressor will remain properly bound and limited. Bro, I needed to hear that about 15 years ago. That probably would have helped out
Yeah.
several times.
I mean, he keeps going with it too. People who refuse to muster appropriately self-protective territorial responses are laid open to exploitation as much as those who genuinely can't stand up for their own rights because of a more essential inability or true imbalance of power.
Right.
I mean, it's just like what he's saying, and I hate to keep just repeating what he says, but I mean, it's going back to where if you can't feel good about yourself, right? And that's part of the things to where like knowing yourself, um, knowing what you need in life to like one like just live decently, and be able to go through life the way you want to, um, and then being able to stand up for yourself like once you get to that level, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what he's talking about. And
Right.
how
Yeah.
do you stand up for yourself if you don't know who you are?
Because that's the big thing, right? Like when you're on the bottom, and that's what he talks about leading up to this, is like it's a dog eat dog world on the bottom, and people will try to take advantage of you as frequently and as much as possible. And so that's really what it's about, is like knowing how to set your boundaries. You have to be able to protect yourself, set your own boundaries if you're going to climb, which is what we all have to do. Because if you're not trying to move forward, if you're standing still, you will not prevail. Period. Thank you,
Right.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm lagging again. I see that.
Huh.
I said I'm lagging again. I see that. How bad is
Yeah.
it?
You keep lagging every now and then. It's like every 3 to 4 minutes. You'll like for like 2 seconds, but
I
we're
love it.
working through it. It's okay. Yeah.
It's that hotel life.
Um. And at the so he keeps talking about this paragraph about he kind of real briefly. I'm gonna just read this because it's easier to read it than to explain it, and probably faster too. Bottle of 24. Many bureaucracies have petty authoritarians within them, generating unnecessary rules and procedures simply to express and cement power. Such people produce powerful undercurrents of resentment around them, which, if expressed, would limit their expression of pathological power. It is in this manner that the willingness of the individual to stand up for him or herself protects everyone from the corruption of society. Um,
I've seen that, man, in real time recently. The government thing, like the more I climb up in my career, the the more exposure I get to other things in the world that I haven't had exposure to. And I'll tell you, man, and I got to be careful with what I say here, but there are some corrupt local governments. There are some local governments that they don't like you, and therefore they are going to do everything they can to drive you into the ground. And sometimes there's nothing you can do, man. That's the big importance of what Peterson's saying there. Like, watch, you got to watch who you're voting for, man. It is important. I can run
yeah,
away
but
quick.
I've also seen the opposite. Specifically in my life, I'm not gonna get into the details or anything, but when when you have two or three of those um prominent leaders coming into your business, buying stuff often, um, there's no negative connotation, no politics involved or anything, and they're just coming in to grab a bite to eat and leaving.
Yep.
Yep. So it can go both ways.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking about he's specifically talking about suppressing people,
Right.
um, because he uses the word tyranny a couple times through these paragraphs as well. Um, and that's one of the things you have to kind of understand and know a little bit about Peterson. And it goes about it in the beginning of this book with the foreword and the overture. But he's was kind of obsessed with that for a while, like how Nazi Germany came about
Right.
and how to prevent it from happening again. Um, and it all starts with the individual,
Right. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Like that's why I hope like millions of people benefit from this book and books like it. It doesn't necessarily have to be Peterson. It's just more so about us finding a path forward. Finding some form of continuous growth, and hopefully in that having more open minds, like you were saying earlier, because like it starts with the individual, but we all as a community, as a society, we need each other to grow, man. That's like things can go sideways quick, and we have to care enough about each other, to try to pick ourselves up and do better. You know, that's why I get
Right.
fired.
Right.
Say fired
Um,
up one more time, Zach. Say fired up one more time. I'm gonna smack you. I, I don't
so
say it. Don't make any cultural jokes.
no, 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 no. All right, all right. I was.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I was gonna say for those, so no one gets confused, we're both named Zach. Because that's the thing. I was kind of trying to figure out where to go where there, and then I heard my name said, and I was like, "What?"
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was like, I haven't said fired up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess that's gonna get confusing real
Oh.
quick, huh? I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. I find it awkward to call myself by my last name. I don't even know if I want to say my last name on here, to be honest.
Yeah, don't. You just say whatever you want to. I really don't care. I just like the sound of your voice. Um, but he, um, he starts talking about
Don't you
um
skip over my favorite part. Don't you skip over like one of my favorite parts of this chapter on page 25.
I'm on 25.
All right, let's see where you go with this.
Um hold on, now I want to I'll look back and make sure I'm not. So I'm gonna go into where like
You-
people are starting to.
Hey, go into what you want to go into.
Uh,
Don't let me throw you off.
okay. Um, at the bottom, so he starts talking about the awakening, which is when people kind of realize, when they're no longer naive, um, and they can start to kind of see themselves as because like that this is the progression, right? Is you're at a job or something like that, and there's all these stupid freaking rules that nobody likes, and you kind of realize that it's like limiting you in some way, one way or the other. But it's not only limiting you; it's limiting the people around you. Well, all of a sudden, you're going to get angry. Never felt this before, but that's what happens: is you get angry, and then you get scared at yourself because all of a sudden, this angry outburst isn't going to be like I'm mad. It's going to be you're a piece of crap to your boss or something like that, and you're gonna hit him with a keyboard or something. I don't know.
Mm,
So he's talking about that and like like stepping down from that because of course you're not gonna go confront your boss right then and there, but suddenly you realize you have this inside of you, right?
right,
So
right.
that's the awakening. Um, when once naive people recognize in themselves the seeds of evil and monstrosity and see themselves as dangerous, their fear decreases. They've
Mm,
developed more self respect, then perhaps they begin to resist oppression. They see that they have the ability to withstand because they are terrible too. They see they can and must stand up because they begin to understand how genuinely monstrous they will become, otherwise, feeding on their resentment, transforming it into the most destructive of wishes. To say it again, there's very little difference between the capacity for mayhem and destruction, integrated, and strength of character. This is the this is one of the most difficult lessons of life. And then I think he starts getting into your favorite part. Um, maybe you are a loser, and maybe you're not.
That's it.
But if you are, you don't have to continue in that mood. Maybe you just have a bad habit. Maybe you're even just a collection of bad habits.
That's it.
Nonetheless, even if you come by your poor posture honestly, even if you were unpopular or bullied at home or in grade school, it's not unnecessarily appropriate now. Circumstances change. If you slump around with the same bearing that characterizes a defeated lobster, people will assign you a lower status, and the old counter that you share with crustaceans, sitting at the very base of your brain, will assign you a low dominance number. Then your brain will not produce as much serotonin, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, um, you you are what you are. You um,
Maybe you're just a collection of bad habits.
a collection of bad habits,
When I
and
read
that's
that,
okay.
man, I just stopped. I just stopped. It's like, holy crap. That's why I feel like I need this book, right? Like, that's why I want to read this book is like, I see the problems, man, and I want to fix them. And like, this book is saying the things that like, I mean, they're getting the juices flowing, if you will. I'm starting to like recognize issues and realize, okay, well, you've lived with that for 30 plus years. Maybe it's time to change it. you know? So yeah, no, I'm getting really excited about this one, man.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it goes back to those things to where at the basic level, you are of a your being is a collection. To me, at least, it's a collection of all your past experiences living now in this moment. but that doesn't have to define you.
Right.
Right. There's always new experiences that you can have. And you're not, and I'm I understand, like, is holding my head up with my shoulders back really going to change a whole lot? We have to start somewhere. Yeah,
Right.
something as stupid as standing up straight. Just do it. Just try it.
Yep.
Right.
I was just
Um,
looking at these notes right now, and I can hear that I'm lagging, but I hope I'm keeping up just enough. Listen to this. Uh, Positive feedback loops, adding effect to effect can spiral counterproductively in the negative direction, but it can also work to get you ahead. Alterations in the body language offer an important example. If you were asked by a researcher to move your facial muscles one at a time into a position that would look sad to an observer, you would report feeling sadder. If you were asked to move the muscles one by one in a position that look happy, you would report feeling happier. Emotion is partly bodily expression that can be amplified or dampened by that expression. I think I messed that note up there. But anyways, Zach, yeah, help me pick up the pieces after this. I'm gonna keep just driving through this thing, butchering it the whole way. If your posture is poor, for example, if you slump, shoulders forward and rounded, chest tucked in, head down, looking small, defeated, and ineffectual, protected in theory from an attack from behind, then you will feel small, defeated, and ineffectual. Uh, the reactions of others will amplify that. Um, will amplify that. Can you help me out on this? Do you know where I'm at? I know
yeah, I
these
know
notes are
exactly
wrong.
where you're at. No, you're exactly right there. Um,
I can't even begin the next
uh,
sentence because I know it's wrong. Like,
the
there's
reactions of others will amplify that. People like lobsters size each other up, partly in consequence of stance. If you present yourself as defeated, then people will react to you as if you are losing. If you start to straighten up, then people will look at you and treat you differently.
so the point being is like it's got both an internal effect and an external effect. Your Superman thing that you were talking about forever ago, man. Like, well, you've got this guy on this podcast telling you that, but you've also got this doctor, this clinical psychologist that is telling you that as well. So, you know, it might seem dumb, but it is an important one, man. Like, it's about focusing on the little things, right? Like, you can go through this life unconscious, like the entire life, you never wake up. But if you choose to wake up and you choose to focus on the tiny details, that if you choose to improve a little bit every day, like that's when things start to snowball and really take your life in a positive direction.
Right. He kind of keeps talking about that, the bottom of 26. You might object the bottom is real, being at the bottom is equally real. Mere transformation of posture is insufficient to change anything that fix. And I'm going to skip a couple lines. And fair enough, but standing up straight with your shoulders back is not something that is only physical, because you're not only a body, you're a spirit, so to speak, a psyche as well. Standing up physically also implies and evokes and demands standing up metaphysically. Standing up means voluntarily accepting the burden of being. The nervous system responds in an entirely different manner when you face the demands of life voluntarily. You respond to a challenge instead of embracing a catastrophe. You see the dragon hordes instead of shrinking in terror from the all too real fact of the dragon, etc., etc. Um, or was it? You step forward to take your place in the dominance hierarchy you occupy your territory, manifesting your willingness to defend, expand, and transform it. That can all occur practically or symbolically as a physical or as a conceptual restructuring. And then I think he kind of gets down to the nitty gritty of it here at the next paragraph. To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to accept the terrible responsibility of life with the eyes wide open. Means deciding to voluntarily transform the chaos of potential into the realities of habitable order. Means deciding to voluntarily transform the chaos of potential into the realities of habitable order. I can't say that word.
Oh man, you know I can't.
But it's just, you I don't want to use the word self-esteem. You have a more positive outlook on life and yourself. And it's like what he said, instead of, when life throws you a curveball and you have a problem. I'm a nurse, so my job is to fix people's problems, so to speak, right? Um, so that's what I do all the time. So anyway, I see people all the time. Every person that I see at my job is at the bottom of the bottom at that point in time, right? Um, they're never happy. I'm just gonna throw that out there, but um, I see it all the time. The ones that I go into and they're like sitting on the side of the bed and like literally sitting up on the side of the bed, supporting themselves, eating food, their breakfast. I can go ahead and tell you they're going to get out fairly quickly, if not that day. But the ones who don't want to try for themselves, who are, you pull the table over for me, you set my tray up, and they're. I'm not talking about the ones that physically can't do that. I'm talking about normal everyday beings that are fully functional adults that are going through a hard time and they refuse to kind of take care of themselves. You have to be ready for those hits. And if preparing for the hit a year from now means today standing up with your correct posture, why not? Why not try it?
That's still a tough one, man. That's I'm sore from just trying to stand up a little bit straighter all the time. I'll get used to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that's a pretty good stopping point. Like, it's a good chapter. It's kind of a soft landing into the book, you know. This thing gets pretty deep as we go along, but
Yeah. Um,
he's setting us up for success, already.
right. I kind of hate it that we didn't get into the chaos and order thing and the being, but I mean, we're gonna miss some stuff. That's
Yeah,
why.
well, this is a conversation, right? Like the important thing is like if somebody finds this book interesting, like get it, read it, go to your library, request it, like
If you've read this book, or if you stumbled upon this and you are deciding to read this now, put in the comments what we missed, what you wish we would have talked about.
yeah, we definitely missed a lot. And I think that's going to be a thing. It sucks, right? But we can still talk about it. Like this is just a conversation. We can keep
Yeah,
the
it's a
conversation
discussion.
going. Yep.
Right.
Yep. All right, man. Well, this was fun and I look forward to doing it again next week.
Yeah, I look forward to going to bed.
Yeah, that's happening right now.
I'm gonna lay in bed with with correct posture.
Yeah, lay down straight. That's what I'm about to do.
Yeah, lay down straight. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
man.
See
Yes,
y'all.
sir.